Hello out there. This is Wise Women, and today you're spending time with women inspiring spiritual excellence. I'm La Cherie.
I'm Agnes.
And I'm Treve.
We are a group of women who love God and we love His people, and we just want to share Him with you.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Wise Women. Today we have a wonderful guest with us, a creative guest with us, okay? We have Deanna Hunter. Wait, did I say your name?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And on this, we're still doing soul searching, of course, but we decided to do a little twist. We know that creativity is important in the process of soul searching. I would even kind of emphasize that it's like one of the main veins of soul searching, because I mean, like, we all know that the soul is invisible. Like, it's the essence of who we are, but it doesn't come from anything that is tangible, if that makes sense. So I think that, like, you know, just thinking about God or just thinking about like how we came into formation, that process was a creative process. So I would just like to hear you guys take on like creativity in your soul searching, or how, like, whatever you guys want to talk about, because this is a creative episode.
I mean, what you just said was amazing to me. I can throw Bible in there. When there's a verse that says, you know, who am I that you are mindful of me? And to think about when I'm doing spoken word, or a song comes to my mind, you know, it's a thought. And so before He created us, like, I'm just wondering, like, when you were thinking of me, like, how, like, what did it look like? How did you envision me in your mind? Like, how my eyes looked, and how my nose looked, and what my personality was going to be. And then even the gifts that you gave me, like the ability to just be sitting doing nothing, or be walking around and just hear melodies in my head, or to just start singing.
'Cause you can sing.
And just from words, walking outside and singing about walking outside, just the ability to do that without, and then sometimes that happens without thought.
Right.
Because I'm not thinking about doing anything. It just happens. Yeah. A song just comes to mind. So did it take much thought for Him to create me? Or did all of His power just come into one and it was perfect? Because He's perfect. And we know, crazy. Well, at least I know, you know, things are imperfect to me. When I'm writing, I got to start over a whole bunch of times. Or even if a song comes, it sounds good the first time, it automatically comes. But after that, I can't duplicate it, and I can't get back to how it sounded the first time I did it. So I'm grateful to be creative, because He is the creator, and I feel like He entrusted me to bring forth His vision, whether that's in song, whether that's in spoken word, or whatever it is He gives me to do. Now, Deanna, you're like putting the vision on the canvas. Okay. Like, that's something different. It's a whole other process, even though it's still a process. Yeah. So
yes. You know, it's crazy. When you were saying that, I was just thinking about, all right, so they say, like, well, not they, but it says, like, you know, we're all created in His image, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what if we're doing, like, so say everybody has, like, so many different personalities and whatnot.
Right.
Like, well, different personality for everybody. It's like, okay, this is all a piece of Him coming out and showing. So, like, say if I'm doing the painting, it's just like, sometimes I can be painting and I'm looking at the canvas, but I don't know what's going on. And it's just like, it's kind of like, you know, He probably kind of like takes over kind of thing. So even say if somebody's like singing or doing spoken word, it's just like, you know, he kind of takes over, you know? So it's just like, you know, if we're all like in His image, He's like, what, all knowing and all that, right? So it's just like, all right, a piece of, like, this part of me is going to you, so this will show in what you're doing. And then, you know, same as the next person. If that makes sense, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh man.
I was
So-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's crazy that you even mentioned that, cause like, well, for me, I used to like my whole therapy was like writing growing up, right? And like it's crazy because like I have like I'm trying to get back to like just writing to write, if that makes sense, but it's hard for me because I like at some point I went from writing in a sense just writing how I feel out on paper to like more so like turning my writings into prayers. But my whole point is, I mean, whether you write and you don't put like dear God on whatever, it's still a prayer in itself because it's just a conversation on paper. But there was points where like even in the past few years where I would be writing and literally it would just like my hand would be moving and I don't know what's
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
So like when you said that, I said that's crazy because I didn't know that. I never talked about it with other people. So
Same.
I didn't know that like other people experienced the same thing. But I think the first time it happened, I was like, what is happening? Because it was almost as if like I started off writing something and then all of a sudden it was like my hand was moving and the words were coming. They come faster than my mind can actually process.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
just spills out onto the paper. So I'm like, okay, what is going on? But that makes sense how you said like we're all made in his image, you know. We're all made in the image of God and like we're all expressions or forms, whether you red, like if you were a rainbow, you red, blue, I'm yellow, you know what I'm saying? Like we're all different expressions of like who the creator is. And so it's just like, like I mean, I just learned something new because I ain't know like y'all experienced that whole, you know, taking over thing.
Man, it's shoot, I know we were talking earlier, but it is therapy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're allowing him to take over. And, you know, it's funny to me because in the church world, you know, we talk about going into the closet and you praying for hours to hear him speak.
Right.
But he's speaking whenever you paint.
Right.
Whatever it is he gives you to paint, he's speaking when you're writing. Whatever it is he gives you to write.
Right.
Whatever it is he gives me to sing.
Right.
And it takes yielding to him, being willing to be quiet, to shut up,
Yeah.
be humble, and try to envision what he wants you to paint, to be able to let go and not make it about ourselves. And it's like, it's not even hard. It's not like we have to do any really deep searching.
Right.
And it's not like we're staying on the surface, but it's already embedded inside of us. And it's like he's just pulling it out and with ease.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I feel like now in my life, I realize even more because, you know, he's been called awesome creator. And those are things, you know, we call him certain things that sometimes become cliche. Like we just say that's who we are, but who he is. But, you know, we're saying it not with a faith in it or belief in it, but he is a creator. The Bible says he took the clay and formed us. He's a sculptor. He spoke us into existence.
Right.
Spoken word.
Yeah.
We are his art. You know, we're art, walking art, talking art.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you something, Deanna. I'm trying to remember what I was gonna ask, but the first thought I had was to the one time that I decided not to write first whenever I performed a spoken word, and I got up there, and before I got up, like in prayer, I started off writing initially, like because I was given a theme, and so I studied. The theme was Nehemiah, and so, you know, I studied Nehemiah. And the thing was, when I was studying Nehemiah, I found and learned so much more than what I knew they wanted me to speak on. And so I started writing this, and I had issues because I was just in my mind thinking, I know what they want me to talk about, but you asked me to study Nehemiah, and it's so much more than what you want me to talk about. And I couldn't find the right words to put. And every time I would write, it's like, okay, no, that's not going to work. Let me try and start over. Then I'm writing, and I kind of gave up. I'm just like, okay. And at this point, when I get up there, I think I started getting irritated with myself because the last couple of times that I had performed a spoken word, I forget the words. I know they say people can't tell you forgot the words.
Right.
Only you know. But
Yeah.
I know. And I kind of felt like, when I'm singing, I think I was talking to you about this yesterday. Like when I'm listening to my spoken word, like I'm going in the car. I'm like saying it, like going hard. But it's like when you're trying to feel it, sometimes it's still just trying to remember the words and recite it. But if I truly just let go and let you speak to me in that moment, you're going to give me exactly what it is you want to say through me. And that was the first time before I went up on the stage, I had no idea what I was about to say. But I could feel, whatever it was downloading inside of me. So when I got up there, it still took me time to say something, but I wasn't thinking about what I'm going to say. I stood there, I listened, I opened my mouth, and whatever he said came out.
Right.
So I still don't remember the question I was going to ask you. But
I can actually relate to that because say if when I paint, I can have, okay, I want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. Kind of like just being in control.
Yeah.
And really it works best when I'm just like, okay, let me relax and let me not think about it. And let me just go with the flow. And in that case, it's kind of like I just zone out and it kind of feels like I'm not even painting. Yeah, it's me. I'm painting, I'm moving my paintbrush and all this, but it's not like, oh, it has to be like this, it has to be like that. No. And that's how I end up with like, I'll cover it up because that's really not what it was supposed to be.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And I was gonna ask you both actually, since we're like, on the season of soul searching, for you both and what you do, how has being creative or like, using your gift or your talent, like helped you in a sense find yourself or find a piece of your soul or maybe heal in a way that you probably couldn't have done otherwise?
Oh, man. It forced me to have personal time with myself with no distractions. Ooh. Like, because you have to be authentic in what you're doing. So in order for you to really just kind of like dive in and really dive deep into yourself, you have to spend some time with yourself. And at first, it sucks. It's sad. It's just like, oh my God, I'm frustrated. I can't really process my feelings. I can't, it's just getting out of the norm. And it's like, all right, now that you learn how to have some time with yourself, even after you learn how to do it, it's still hard to sometimes sit down. I'm like, okay, let me just express myself. But when you choose that, it sits you down.
Yeah.
And you can't really escape it. It's just like, okay, this is just what it's going to be. And that's how you come out with the most authentic things, because you just kind of let go of control instead of trying to like control your life. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Like, no, you just kind of sit back and just not coast, but it's kind of like just kind of takes over,
I definitely agree, and pretty much the same for me. I know you've had these moments because we've talked about them, but there's times when like you try to force yourself to do it, or you make time. You say, I'm going to sit and do it this time, and nothing comes.
Right.
And it's like the driest season ever.
Yeah.
And even if you are going through something or you feeling some kind of way and you just can't pour, you can't, nothing comes to mind. And it's oftentimes because your mind is so busy. There's so much that's in it. You would think that those are the times when you would have so much to say or so much to put out, and you got nothing.
Yeah.
Writer's block, painter's block, artist's block. It's this creative block.
Yes.
But you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Especially like for me, I feel like I'm not being used and I can't be used right now.
Yeah.
And I have had to learn how to put my feelings into words. I've had to learn how to, in order to do that, I have to submit to him. And like she said, it takes sitting with yourself. And sometimes when you're hurting or when you're upset, you don't want to be around anybody, and that includes yourself. And you really gotta surrender everything and put your mind in the right place, put your heart in the right place, let go of anger and all of that. It's like you have to go through that process of healing before healing, in a sense, because you got to be okay with yourself and provide yourself with that space, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, so that I guess you kind of can build that connection back with him, essentially, with who he created you to be. I feel like a lot of times when I'm going through, or when I do need healing from something, I'm not myself. So how can I sit with myself if I'm not myself? I gotta find myself again. I gotta find that creativeness in me again. I feel like I lost the juice, and I'm trying really hard to get it back. But it takes that. First of all, just admitting, okay, this is a dry season for me. There's a blockage. What is it? What's going on? Like, Lord, help me to get it back. What, like, you created me to do this, so why am I having a hard time doing it? And then coming out of those moments, like, I just realized, or I just thought, what would I do if I couldn't write a poem? What would I do if I couldn't sing? If I didn't hear these melodies in my head, I don't know what I would do. I can't imagine life without that. And so I'm gonna do what I can to put myself or get myself back to that space. For me, it's taking prayer. And like I said, surrendering to him. And like I said, it's the healing before healing. So when I've healed to a point where I can be myself, it's almost like sometimes there are certain people that I won't, not that I feel like I can't depend on those people or lean on those people or confide in them, but there's certain people that I won't tell my negativity to, whether it's from me doing something wrong or other people doing something wrong to me, or me going through stuff. And I won't do it simply because I feel like with that person, there's a certain space that's created that's so positive and peaceful that I don't want to interrupt that flow. And I don't want to mess that up.
That's good.
And I feel like sometimes I can even get like that with God. Now, he's God. He's the person I'm supposed to be giving all that to. But I don't want to mess that space up. But I've learned that I have to give it to him so that the product of me going through the process with him can be a work of art, something that's beautiful, something that sounds beautiful, something that looks beautiful. And I've also recently learned, when I was a kid, most of the poems and songs, well, the songs I wrote they were about boys and stuff because I was a kid. But
boys,
like,
a crazy boy lover.
Because one of my friends used to be like, oh, sing about this. And off the top of my head, I would make a song about a boy. Most of the time it was about boys because I was in high school. But when I was a kid, I started writing poetry before I started singing. When I wrote poetry, I was writing about how I felt. But it wasn't like a connection with God, or I wasn't trying to go deep or anything or be creative. I was just writing how I felt. But now that I'm older and I'm accepting of the process I have to go through, and I know that it's not mine, it's his, that he gave to me. I've learned how to turn what I'm going through and how I feel into music or into a poem. And I understand there's some things that are just for me. I'm not going to release it. It's only for me. And I value that because only he and I know. Just like I think you were talking about some of your paintings, like you leave it open for interpretation, but you know the meaning. And I think that the person is meant for, it'll be revealed to them. Because it was destined for them. Like, I know it's a song. I don't even know if it's a song or a poem, but I felt like I was in a season of Gethsemane, like in that place where I can't pray. You know, it's hard for me to stay awake. I want to fall asleep, but I know I need to be praying. But things are so heavy. And it's right before the point of transition. that, you know, you feel like that before you are exalted or promoted or whatever. And I just started, I heard it in my head. I wrote the song. And then I didn't know if it was a song or a spoken word. I just heard the melody and wrote the words. But and there's only been one other poem that I've wrote where it was about something personal that was going on with me. And I had to allow myself to put that out. Because once again, it's like, I'm not taking my hurt to nobody else. The only person I can take it to is God. So it's going to stay there between me and God for now anyway, unless, you know, if he tells me to release it. But the healing process, I think for me, it doesn't come with the release of whatever it is, the poem, the song, or whatever. I have to do it before I get to release that.
Yeah.
So
That's good. I think. Well, Deanna, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead. I'm gonna come back.
Because I know thoughts be flowing, and all of a sudden you want to say something.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, just from one, like, well, both of y'all have really said it. But it made me start thinking about, like, honestly, in order to, like, create, you have to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And like y'all said, y'all talked about, like, having to be with yourselves or surrendering. But it's like, I have to make a choice to, like, share, you know, myself with myself. Because, like, I think, honestly, how I think of a soul, I think a soul is finitely infinite. And when I say that, I mean, like, it is, because it's invisible, because it's like, we're expansive people, you know, we're not our physical bodies. We are the soul. And I feel like the soul is, like, literally, we're so big, so expansive. There's so much to us. There's so many compartments. There's so many things that we've been through. But I feel like sometimes it's not, and the crazy thing about the soul, to me, this is my theory, okay? Nobody shoot me. But I feel like the soul is, like, it's very similar to God when it says that he has no beginning and he has no end, or he's the beginning and the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like God is infinite. And because we're creating in his image, we have, that's why I say finitely infinite. Because I feel like we do have an end, but we're also expansive in a way that is very close to infinity. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when I think of a soul of a person, the beginning of you is in there, but also the end of you is in there too. So you know who you are and all that you can be. It's just up to you to find it. So when y'all were talking about, like, when you're writing or when you're singing or when you're, you know, painting, painter's block, writer's block, you know, all of these blocks, a creativity block, is it, in my mind, I began to see, like, a maze, and I began to see, like, it's not really that you have a block. It's just that you're hitting a wall because there's somewhere else that you're supposed to go. Like a maze, you know? So it's really just low key an internal reroute. So you're coming up against
internal. Hold up. Come on,
like,
internal reroute.
But it's like
That's
crazy to me because it's the first time that I'm actually, like, as we're talking about it, that I'm seeing it that way. Like, because I've experienced the same thing too. I'll be, like, writing, and I'll go through, like, the dry season where it's like, because for me, I write as a source of therapy for myself. That's how I grew up. Like how you said, you would sing or you would do poetry and you would do it, like, based off of what you felt, you know? I would write just as a form of, like, oh, I'm mad today, let me just journal in my journal. Oh, I'm happy today, da, da, da. You know, I got to talk to my crush, da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying? So that was, like, my little diary, you know? And that's how I started, like, writing. But there was times where I didn't really want to write. But I didn't really want to write because I got caught up in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, like, my escape. You know, I got caught up in real life. I got busy. Sometimes it's because I didn't want to be with myself. You know what I'm saying? And I was, like, running away from myself. So I would, like, literally escape into real life instead of being vulnerable on paper. And so I think sometimes it's like, no, you need to, for me, healing on paper, in a sense, or really healing now, because I've learned to do it in real life, you know. But not real, I don't want to say, like, real life, but, like, for me, like, let me just give a little disclaimer. You know, for me, writing was, like, an alternate reality. And I could go deeper with that, but I ain't even going to go deeper. But
I feel you.
Sometimes when I would meet that block, I began to understand that as I've matured, Like guys, like it's not that you can't write or that you've lost your juice or your creativity. It's just the fact that I'm trying to get you to see it differently. I want you to have a different perspective on this. I want you to like move to a new place. Maybe you want to write about bananas, but I want you to write about apples.
That reroute.
Reroute.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then every time that I've rerouted authentically, like, and not forced to reroute, because you can do that too. You know, when I've authentically rerouted, it's literally like, like I looked, I don't know if it's a mirror. I wouldn't say it's a mirror, but I've seen myself differently, or I've seen a situation differently. Like it's made me have a aha moment. Like, dang, I wasn't even thinking that, you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. So I'm like, but I think that can go multiple ways, but that's my own little thing on that. Y'all can.
Did you want to say your thought before I say?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to real quick, just like being with yourself or like spending time with yourself. So yeah, that's necessary, but at the same time, you can also run from yourself too. Like I've done it multiple times, and what's crazy is if you're creative or something like that, it shows up in your work, and it's just like, yeah, like even when I'm painting.
Wow.
Yeah, I could be in a headspace where I'm running from myself. I don't necessarily know what's going on in my head. And then it shows right up in my artwork. And I'm just like, oh, well, I guess that's what I had going on. And that's what I got to look back on.
Wow.
So either way, it's just like, at one point I had a painting called Can't Hide from Self. And it's eyes everywhere.
Well,
And it's just like, honestly, if you're with yourself, where are you going to go? Where exactly are you going to... If you go in a corner, you still by yourself. You can't really go nowhere. If you try to go in the back, try to hide behind a corner, it's still yourself. You can't go anywhere. So it's like, all right.
Snaps.
Yeah, all right. You try to go around the corner. Guess what? That's another side of yourself that you're going to have to deal with. All right. You try to hide in the back. Guess what? Open the door. It's another part of yourself that you got to deal with. So, you know, it's no hiding. It's... you might as well just explore.
Literally.
Literally. So, you know, that's just how I feel about that. That's all I had to say. But
one of my favorite, I don't want to say this is my favorite book of the Bible, but I can relate so much to David. And he didn't write all of the Psalms.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm not going to give a Bible lesson.
Well, actually, because they be putting a little dissertation.
A song of Asaph.
You're right. So
the people he appointed.
You're right.
To
I knew
worship.
that, but I didn't know that. I'm playing.
But Psalm 139. When you were talking, I thought about that psalm because Psalm 139. Starting at verse 7 says, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there.
oh, man.
If I rise on the wings of dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will be not dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you.
Dang.
Like,
you can see everything.
Yeah, so you saying, I feel like when you were talking, it's like, okay, I'm a reflection of him. And it's like, that's what I'm trying to run from, because we're made in his image and likeness, but he's still perfect, even though we're not. And I'm running from that perfectness that, you know, I'm always trying to be like who I already am. I'm in his image. That's who I am. He said I am that I am. I'm running from that, who he created me to be, so I can just be me, my version of who I am. And what I was going to say before that, I guess it kind of ties into that. You know, I was taking notes or whatever. What I was going to say before that is I can't get to myself. Like, we have room to grow. And like you said, who we are is already in us. We just have to make the choice to put the effort in to find ourselves. And when we do find ourselves, we may not ever really truly get to who we're supposed to be and who we fully were created to be. Right. And we may die before we even, you know, get there. But making the effort to get there takes healing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we did get to that person, like imagine the paintings, imagine the things you would write, imagine the songs that would be birthed and come out. But it takes that healing.
Yeah.
There are hurts that I don't even want to process.
Yeah.
They still sitting in me.
Facts.
If I really think about it, I'd be hurting all day because I am not ready to have that conversation with myself yet. It's there and it's just gonna be there, and we're gonna have that understanding.
It's like a little tab, like, all right, I'll say that for later.
Like the tab is there. Bookmark this tab. It's there. I haven't processed that yet. I haven't even fully let it go, giving it to God yet. But when I get there, and it's like I know, but I'm still, in myself, I'm still like, well, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
And I've been a little selfish, because I'm not ready to feel what I have to feel in order to heal from it. And that's
good.
this is for the creatives. Yeah. So I don't know if y'all feel what we're saying.
I feel you.
But like I could get emotional if I thought about it because I don't want to feel that. I'm not gonna think about it. But until I unlock that and I really let it go and really let him heal me from it, until I really come to terms with myself, that perfect self, I think it's supposed to be perfect. He didn't say he made us perfect. He said he made us in his image. Like you said, different pieces and reflections of him.
Right.
If you think about the rainbow that comes across the sky, it's all different colors. It's not one color.
Right.
The rainbow represents his promise to us. How can we think that we were made in one way? If we're creating this image and likeness, but we all look completely different.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yep.
But we still have this. I feel like sometimes, and this where perfectionists come in. I don't know if all creatives are perfectionists, because I know I'm a perfectionist.
To think so.
I feel like they are.
But it's like,
in a way. The
thing is, though, right? We know that God is perfect. He didn't make us perfect. We all have all these imperfections. So why are we perfectionists?
Ooh, interesting. That's interesting. I never thought of that.
And the thing is,
who are we trying to? Ourselves. Nobody but ourselves.
Facts.
I ain't never thought. Like, I'm literally thinking about, like, Asians, Black people, Hispanics. Like, we all different shades. Everybody has their little quirk. You know what I'm saying? I never thought of it like that, honestly.
And our differences are not sin to him. They're not things that we call ugly. Other people's appearance is not. Sometimes I this is funny, and it may be off topic, but sometimes I be feeling bad, like, with different creatures. Because they're his creation.
Hey, man. I've been feeling bad for the roaches.
But once again, imperfect.
But I don't even feel bad for them, low key.
A perfect God created imperfect creatures.
But I'm sorry.
And we're just as imperfect as a roach. At the end of the day, some of us do some things that are beneath us. And I'll say sometimes, look, we've been wanting to stomp on them roaches, but some of us be acting like human roaches. But I found myself like using human as a term when I be feeling like, okay, I really messed up, or I just feel like like I don't want to be in my flesh. Like, okay, I had a really human moment. Like where I realized, not that I thought I was perfect before whatever happened, but man, I really realized how imperfect I am. And he still loves me. Period. I'm still his creation. But it's funny how our creations, I won't even say that. I was about to say our creations are so permanent to us. But we continue to grow and change. Even our appearances change as we get older. The way we sound changes as we get older. There's all these changes that go through that go on inside of our body. That's imperfect. But
you know what I thought of? It's just like, even just being a creative. So say if I'm painting and I'm like, of course it's not like a perfect straight line or something, but I can look at it and I'm like, that's perfect just for me. Like, that's just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, like, what if God look at us like that? Like, all right,
Wow.
this is just as perfect as I need you to be kind of thing, or this is how I created you kind of thing. So that's what it's supposed to be. So it's not all straight lines and perfect, as some people would, consider perfect. But what is perfect? So,
That's true.
so.
He'll never come back and say, Deanna, let me change your nose. You're going to look different tomorrow when you wake up.
That's permanent.
I'm
Like-
stepping into territory now.
I don't like your voice anymore, Agnes. Let me change it. I don't like them eyebrows. Let me
But
change
that's the
it.
age we live in.
It's true.
I mean, people creating themselves and
That's true.
Reinventing themselves.
Yeah.
But they never really change on the inside.
That's true. And I feel like it's a little touchy because you got people that they change things because they just want to change it, and then you have people that change it because it's an expression of them, and then you got people that change things because trauma's there and they're trying to heal through it, but the healing is really something that has to happen internally.
I was about to say, you messing with somebody else's artwork. Don't step on my artwork. This is mine. How you just gonna come and remix what I made?
Snap. I never thought of that.
Like, how would you feel if somebody took one of your paintings
and
just covered it up or made it something it wasn't?
Because that's literally what it is.
Right.
Like, started painting on top of it. That's crazy.
Shoot, I copyrighted my songs, my books, my poems.
Wow.
What if I already be mad? Yeah, disrespectful. I already be mad if you saying my poem as if it's yours and not giving me the credit for it. But you unchanged the second line, you unchanged the 15th verse, you unchanged the rhythm and flow of it. Like, I'd be upset.
That ain't your poem no more.
But that's what we're doing.
Snap.
We don't belong to it. We belong to him. He created
crazy. But what do you say to people that say it's nothing new under the sun? Like, I mean,
he's not surprised.
Like, there's nothing new. Like, all we are recreated versions of each other. Like, what do you say to, you know what I'm saying? Like, people.
Well, I mean, you looking at other people and not looking in the word. I mean, that's
snap.
Recreated versions of each other, but we didn't come out that way.
Oh, what's the source?
What's the source? Who's your daddy? Really and truly.
I feel the gunshots being fired on this.
I mean,
right, that's also the do.
Really and truly. Like, not to be inappropriate, but he's our father. We're made in his image and likeness. Who are you trying to look like? Who are you trying to fashion yourself off of? Whose image are you trying to be? Like, in whose image are you trying to be?
I'm done.
I know celebrities and, people try to look like them and remodel their lives after them. And whatever seems easier to get to money, people try to do it. I mean, instead of finding their gift in their own unique creativity that's in them, they try to copy somebody else's. I don't want no copycats.
Oh,
I don't.
And it's never like the original. You can see people trying to copy you, and it could be from anything, whether it's from song, artwork, the way you dress, the way you style your hair, the way you just rock anything. They can try to steal it and be like what they see or be like you, for lack of better words, but it's never the original. So it's like, all right, well, you were supposed to be what you're supposed to be. Stop trying to copy,
It's interesting to me. I'm going to go a little deep here, but hey, we're creative, so we all deep in the room.
All right.
okay, go deep.
So one thing that came to mind when you were talking was, in the word, it says we were created in his image and likeness. It also says don't conform to the patterns of the world. I just thought it was interesting how he used image, and he didn't say don't conform to the image of the world, but the patterns of the world. The world he never changes.
That's crazy.
He never changes. The world changes often.
Wow.
We always following a trend or a pattern or a tradition, or the world changes so much, but yet that's the thing that we're trying to pattern ourselves off of. And you find yourself, just when you think you got it, the world shifts and does something else. But God never changes.
Dang.
And we end up getting lost because the world changes so much, and we got to show, now I got to do this, or now I got to buy this, or I got to keep up with what's going on, keep up with all these changes and innovations and inventions, people reinventing themselves. But he's the one thing that is stable and firm and never changes.
That is...
A picture can't change once it's taken. An image can't change. I mean, but patterns change.
I'm sorry. Like, that mug hit. I'm sorry. It really hit. I'm sitting, my mind is blown right now. I'm having an aha moment. Okay, this just took me back. Okay. I used to have a Tumblr, right? And on Tumblr, my like little name.
I remember Tumblr.
Let's give it up for Tumblr one time for the
Facts.
one time. But on my Tumblr, I was always afraid to like write and stuff like that. But I would like write and put it on private and stuff like that just so I could see. But on Tumblr, I remember I changed my heading to like a lost soul. You know what I'm saying? And when you were just saying what you were saying about like, I don't know if I was always searching for myself, if that makes sense. Like when I was younger, like I was always trying to find what's the it factor for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I really? Like everybody has that thing about them. But sometimes you have your thing, but you don't see it yet, you know? Or you don't really know what it is. So I think for me during that time, you know, when you talked about like we are created in his image and likeness, but like do not conform. I didn't catch that. I mean, how could I? You know what I'm saying? The word is always revealing itself. But like when you're like you said, when you're chasing a pattern, you're always going to be chasing something that's changing. And I think for me in that time, it's not that I was necessarily like externally going through like a crisis or something, whatever people be saying. But it's like inside, I was like reaching for things, you know, like to like find the it. Like I was trying to look at, you know, not really look at people, but like trying to find someone like me. You know, of course you find people like you, but they're not you.
Yeah.
So you can't really copy. Now, I do feel like to a certain extent, we do copy to a certain level. We're brought up and we're taught to walk, to talk a certain way. So we are a copy in a sense, but like, you know, you're born into a family and you don't choose your family, you know. So you're brought up a form, you're like them in a way, you know, whether you want to be like your family or not, you know what I'm saying? By default, you copy behaviors to become who you are. So, but I think it's a problem when you keep copying behaviors and never like, it's like we're taught to copy, but at a certain point, you got to find your it. You know, you got to find the it factor of who you are and what you represent and what you bring to the world. Because we all have a purpose as long as we're living. So, I don't know. That wasn't like really creativity, but that really just gave me a little aha moment. Because I'm like, dang, like, okay. But that's really all I got.
Nah, points were made.
Yes, they were.
This was good.
You know, I still was thinking stuff. So, I mean, I think just, I don't know what I would say to help someone to, you know, stop looking, essentially, I don't want to say stop looking outside the box, but stop looking on the outside of yourself, I guess, to find who you are. But look internally. And it's just like, okay, you know, people say that, look inside you. What does that mean?
Yeah,
Right.
for real, facts.
How do I look inside me?
Yeah.
Somebody, I think it was TD Jakes, he was talking about how things are so different now from when he was growing up. And he was pretty much talking about learn things, how we learn things as we are kids and we become adults. He was saying there are certain things that he will tell his children to do or give his children that they don't have need of. And the reason why is it pretty much was that he was saying, like, you're not learning to be, you're learning to survive. So the things that his mother taught him was so they could survive. Like how to make your own, I don't know. You know, we have washer and dryer now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Back in the day, they didn't have that. So he was taught how to hang his clothes on the clothing line and all of that.
Okay,
but that's not necessary for today's world because we have a washer and dryer. But there are people who still have those same things that they learned and they are not receptive to change or anything new. But I like the fact that he made it about, you know, I didn't learn to be me. I just learned to survive during that time. If I looked at that as who I am, then he wouldn't be who he is right now. He wouldn't have evolved into what woman evolved. He wouldn't have evolved into what he is.
Right.
And a woman evolved. When we think about that, I mean, my thought about that is knowing that what you've been through is not who you are. Even though it affects your personality. It affects the way you do things. It affects the decisions that you make. It affects the things you create. The way you create them. How you sound, the words that you put to paper, but you're not them. So I think another side of creating something is you go through the healing process. Now get over it. Not like, you know, forget what you went through, but get over it. Don't hang on to it.
Sheesh. That's good.
You look like you want to say something, Deanna.
No, well, when you say that, it's like you go through the healing process, and then you get over it, and then there's another layer to go through. Yeah. And it's just like, that's like, even when I was saying, like, you hiding from yourself, like, oh, let me go through this door, oh, let me hide behind this corner. I already bet, now that you sat in this corner and you dealt with that, all right, let's go a little bit up the street and let's deal with this problem that you got inside of you. Like, you know, so it's just like, all right, bet, I got over that, and then now it's on to the next thing. So when they say it's a process, it never ends.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
It never ends, but, you know, just, I don't know, getting through that process and moving on to the next. Easier said than done, of course, but that just goes back to sitting with yourself and willing to do so.
And being comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how will you survive if you're never comfortable with yourself? Because, man, it's nothing worse than, and this is just life, it's nothing worse than feeling like you finally got to a point where you did heal and you're over everything. Everything is going good, sunny days.
Talk about it.
Beautiful clouds in the sky.
Talk about
and then something just punched you in the gut again. Like you go through something again.
Yep.
It's a never-ending cycle. And sometimes, like even for myself, just going through something again, it hinders you from wanting to go through that process because it's like, okay, I know something else is gonna happen after. Like, what's waiting for me around the corner after I go through this one? Or you can get comfortable, you know, and I don't want to say familiar, but get comfortable with yourself to the point that you're fully healed for one, and you can take it. You can take it. You can take whatever happened. It doesn't affect you. It's not as difficult to go through that healing process again because you're already in a space where, for one, you understand that the process is to make me better. And so I won't be stagnant and have creative block.
Right.
Because if you haven't grown in a while, that may be one reason why you can't produce anything new or different.
I can see that. That's deep.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, don't stay stagnant. Wow. I don't really have any. I think y'all made some really good points on
You
this
made some really good points.
episode. I think just to round it up, I think that in this soul searching season, I mean, creativity is obviously really important, and it's not all about what you're creating, but it's also how you're creating. because the process isn't just for us to produce a product, but sometimes we are being changed in the process. We're being healed, we're being transformed, and we're identifying parts of ourselves that we couldn't really see otherwise. So we encourage you to continue to soul search with creativity, and continue to produce things, not stay stagnant, to as you hit, those areas, to be vulnerable with yourself, as you hit those, I guess, blocks, your creativity blocks, look at them as a reroute, so that you can get to your next place. So thanks for joining us on Wise Women.
Thank you.
Yes.
If you're inspired by the word, share it with your family and your friends and even your enemies. And if you would like to make Jesus your Lord and Savior, or if you're just wanting prayer, you can reach out to us at wisewomenhtx@outlook.com. We want to thank everyone for listening in today, and please join us next time on Wise Women.